You stare at the stamped clay tessera in your hand, realizing your name has been replaced by a simple inventory number. The heavy iron door swings shut, locking you inside the damp stone cell that will now be your only home. The Lanista's ledger opens on the desk above, recording your purchase price as a permanent debt against your very life. You are no longer a free citizen, but a high-value asset intended to entertain the roaring crowds of the Empire. The doctor throws a wooden sword at your feet, signaling that your survival depends entirely on your ability to learn violence. Other recruits huddle in the corner, eyeing the iron bars that separate them from the freedom they lost yesterday. The smell of stale barley porridge fills the air, serving as the only fuel you will get for training. The whips patrol the perimeter of the training yard, ready to punish anyone who shows a moment of weakness. You grip the wooden handle tight, knowing that hesitation in this place will only result in bruised ribs and pain. The Lanista watches from the balcony, calculating the potential return on investment for every drop of sweat you spill. Days turn into weeks as you repeat the same drills, striking the wooden post until your hands are raw blisters. The ludus regulations require absolute obedience, forcing you to bow your head whenever a free citizen walks past the gate. The veteran points to his scars, warning you that glory in the arena is just a shiny trap for fools. You learn to block and parry, understanding that defense is the only thing standing between you and a shallow grave. The Lanista's ledger updates every month, adding the cost of your food and gear to your impossible debt total. The doctor barks orders in the heat, demanding perfection in your footwork before you are allowed to rest or drink. You watch the rival practice with a real blade, envying the dangerous grace that makes him the favorite of the school. A sudden whistle blows, summoning all recruits to the center of the yard for the weekly inspection of merchandise. The merchant examines your muscles like cattle, discussing your development with the owner while you stand silent and still. The ludus regulations state that any gladiator who fails the inspection will be sold to the mines without hesitation. You survive the cut, proving you are worth the grain you eat and the space you occupy in the cell. The whips escort you to the armory, where you are fitted for a heavy helmet that limits your vision. The metal chafes your skin, reminding you that this armor is designed for spectacle rather than for your actual protection. The veteran whispers advice about the blind spots, teaching you how to turn your head to see the strikes coming. You step into the sparring circle, facing a fellow recruit who looks just as terrified and desperate as you do. The wooden swords clatter loudly, echoing off the stone walls as you fight for the approval of your masters. You land a solid blow to the shoulder, earning a rare nod of approval from the watching grim-faced trainer. The Lanista marks a plus sign next to your number, increasing your value in the grand scheme of his business. The rival laughs at your effort, mocking your clumsy form while polishing his gilded armor in the afternoon sun. You realize that in this school, your greatest enemy might be sleeping in the cell right next to yours. The medic applies a stinging salve to your bruises, showing zero sympathy for the pain that comes with the job. The Lanista's ledger dictates that injured assets are a liability, so you force yourself to hide every limp and wince. A notice is pinned to the gate, announcing the upcoming games where the new recruits will finally face the sand. The fear in the barracks is palpable, as everyone knows that half of the names on that list will vanish. The doctor intensifies the training, pushing you to the brink of collapse to weed out the week before the show. You practice the salute to the editor, learning the ritual words that must be spoken before the violence begins. The whips inspect your gear, ensuring every strap is tight so the crowd gets a good long show. The night before the games is silent, filled only with the sound of men praying to gods who have abandoned them. You touch the cold stone wall, wondering if you will ever see the sun rise over these hills again. The ludus regulations insist that a gladiator must accept his fate with dignity, forbidding any tears or begging for mercy. The morning brings the sound of trumpets, signaling the march to the great arena in the center of the city. You walk in shackles through the streets, ignored by the citizens who are eagerly buying tickets to watch you bleed. The tunnel under the stands is dark and smells of fear, lions, and the copper tang of old blood. The roar of the crowd vibrates through the ceiling, a terrifying sound that shakes the dust from the stone arches. The Lanista gives a final pep talk, reminding you that a good performance increases your share of the prize money. The gate lifts with a grinding noise, exposing you to the blinding sunlight and the deafening noise of thousands. You step onto the hot sand, feeling tiny and exposed in the center of the massive stone bowl. Your opponent is a stranger from another school, wearing a mask that hides his eyes and his humanity. The fight begins with a rush of adrenaline, your training taking over as you deflect a heavy swinging blow. The crowd cheers for blood, indifferent to which one of you falls as long as the end is dramatic. You spot an opening and strike, knocking the weapon from your enemy's hand and forcing him to the ground. The referee looks to the box, waiting for the signal that will decide the fate of the man beneath you. The senator raises a thumb, sparing the life of the loser because the fight was entertaining enough to satisfy him. You leave the arena alive, your chest heaving with relief as the adrenaline crash leaves you shaking and weak. The Lanista greets you with a smile, handing you a few coins that represent a fraction of your earnings. The Lanista's ledger is updated, but the debt reduction is smaller than you expected due to mysterious administrative fees. You return to the cell, now a proven warrior, but the walls feel just as close and the chains just as heavy. The veteran congratulates you, but his eyes are sad, knowing that survival only means you must fight again soon. The rival seems annoyed by your success, seeing your rising popularity as a direct threat to his own status. The ludus regulations warn that fame is fleeting, and a single bad match can turn the crowd against you instantly. Months pass as you gain a reputation, earning a nickname that the common people shout when you enter the arena. The fan throws flowers at your feet, unaware that you are still locked in a cage every single night. You start to see the patterns in the games, realizing that some matches are arranged to favor the house stars. The senator visits the school, inspecting the top fighters and whispering deals with the owner in the shadows. The Lanista's ledger reveals that your freedom price has been raised, adjusted for inflation and your current market value. You confront the owner about the change, but the whips step forward to remind you of your place. The injustice burns hotter than the branding iron, fueling a quiet rage that you hide behind a stoic mask. The mentor pulls you aside, revealing a secret plan to win freedom through the ultimate loophole of the Great Games. He explains that if you win the Emperor's favor directly, the owner's book becomes irrelevant under the old laws. You begin training for the spectacle, focusing on flashy moves that will capture the hearts of the mob. The rival spies on your new techniques, reporting your ambition to the trainers in exchange for extra wine. The doctor punishes you for arrogance, forcing you to spar against 3 men at once to humble your spirit. You take the beating without complaint, knowing that every bruise is just tuition for the lesson you need. The big event approaches, a festival of games that will draw the most powerful people in the entire empire. The Lanista bets heavily on the rival, setting up the main event as a clash between the two of you. The scribe drafts the program, listing your name as the underdog destined to fall before the champion. You sharpen your blade in silence, ignoring the taunts from the other side of the barracks. The mentor gives you his lucky charm, a small wooden token that represents the hope of a life beyond walls. The night before the fight, the rival visits your cell, sneering that your death has already been paid for. The ludus regulations are suspended for the main event, meaning there will be no referees and no mercy asked. You realize this is not a sport anymore, but a public execution designed to protect the school's investment hierarchy. The tunnel walk feels longer this time, the darkness pressing in like the weight of the earth itself. You emerge into the arena, the noise so loud it feels like a physical blow against your chest. The rival stands across the sand, his gold armor gleaming and his weapon coated in a dark poison. The fight starts fast, with him launching a flurry of attacks meant to end it before you can react. You dodge and weave, using the defensive drills that the veteran taught you to survive the initial storm. The crowd gasps as you land a counterstrike, chipping the gold plating from his armor and drawing first blood. The Lanista looks nervous in his box, realizing that his rigged outcome is in danger of falling apart. The rival grows desperate, abandoning his technique for wild swings that leave him open to your blade. You disarm him with a precise move, kicking him to the sand and holding your sword to his throat. The crowd goes wild, screaming your name and demanding a verdict that defies the script of the owners. The Lanista signals for death, wanting to protect his investment by having you kill his broken asset. You hesitate, looking at the man who tormented you, seeing only another slave trapped in the same system. The Woods step forward with crossbows, ready to enforce the kill if you refuse the order of the game. You look up at the Emperor's box, raising your hand not to kill, but to ask for the verdict. The crowd screams for mercy, their collective voice drowning out the demands of the betting men. You step back, sheathing your sword and refusing to spill the blood of a defeated brother in chains. The rival looks up in shock, realizing you have just spared him despite everything he did to you. The Lanista is furious, screaming at the guards, but the mob is now entirely on your side. The ludus regulations crumble when the people speak with one voice, overturning the authority of the ledger. The Emperor stands up, intrigued by this display of honor that is so rare in his bloody arena. He gestures to the guards to stand down, overruling the owner and taking control of the moment. The crowd begins to chant a new word, demanding the ultimate prize for the champion who showed mercy. The Lanista pales, clutching his book as he realizes he is about to lose his most valuable property. A servant runs onto the sand, carrying a simple wooden sword wrapped in a purple ribbon. You fall to your knees, overwhelmed by the sight of the object that symbolizes the end of your service. The Emperor grants you the ludus, the wooden sword that legally breaks the chains of your slavery forever. The Lanista's ledger is closed with a slam, your debt erased not by gold, but by the will of the people. You take the wooden sword, feeling its lightness compared to the heavy steel you have carried for years. The rival nods to you in respect, a silent acknowledgement that you have beaten the game itself. You walk out of the arena through the victor's gate, leaving the darkness of the tunnels behind you. The guard unlocks your shackles for the last time, his face showing a mix of envy and awe. You step onto the city street, the cool evening air tasting sweeter than any wine you have ever known. The mentor waits for you by the wall, smiling with his one good eye as he welcomes you to freedom. You look back at the looming walls of the ludus, knowing you will never sleep in that cell again. The stamped tessera is thrown into the dust, a discarded symbol of a life that no longer belongs to you. You walk away into the crowd, no longer a number or an asset, but a man with a name. Freedom is not given by laws or ledgers, but taken by those who refuse to let their spirit be broken. The strongest cage is not made of iron bars, but of the belief that you have no choice but to obey. Will you accept the number they give you, or will you fight until the world is forced to remember your name?